sharing our stories connects us. Listen and be connected. Join us for the conversation meeting weekly at the intersection of community and culture. Hosted by Mario Nunez and Joe King Carter. And Joe King Carter. How does that make you feel every time I say that in the intro?
You know, it makes me feel good. Thank you.
That's all you got?
It's not about ego. It's just I like to hear that Carter because I've only been a Carter for 3 or 4 years.
I know, it's a great story.
Yeah.
Most people know it.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody, thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. It's Wednesday. It's your midday Wednesday, WMNF 88.5, WMNF.org broadcast of The Conversation with yours truly, Mario Nunez, and I'm seated alongside my broadcast partner, as always,
Joe King Carter.
There he is.
Hey, how does it make you feel to hear the name Mario Nunez?
I don't know I can say that on the radio. I don't know I can say that. It involves just one of those 7 dirty words you can't say.
I appreciate the introduction every time.
Of course.
Yeah.
So we hope everybody's warm and happy and smiling out there because, well, it's going to warm up in the next 24 to 48 hours. And
but it's a beautiful day already.
Gosh, isn't it, Joey?
Oh, the sky is brilliant blue.
Well, we don't usually get this until, this is Florida State fair weather. You know, we don't usually get this until January, February. So, and it's driving the people up north a little bit nuts too, because all of a sudden their snow blowing equipment wasn't quite ready. And
it can be terrible.
You know, the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald kind of weather.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Joe, did you have a good week off?
Yeah. It was a good week. I always have.
What'd you do this past Sunday?
There's always a party going on in Joe's head.
Of course.
What did I do? I did many
on Sunday. On Sunday?
Oh, on Sunday.
Come on, Joey.
Yeah. Okay. That's right. Get up to speed, Joe.
Do you have a thank you that you want to offer?
We did our WMNF Ybor City History Walking Tour Sunday, and it was wonderful and fun and excellent. I always enjoy introducing people to the history of Ybor City.
And thank you to those that participated because they answered the call when we had our fundraising drive, and thank you for that.
Which means they gave us money.
Yeah,
they gave us money to experience that, and for WMNF, and we deeply appreciate it. And I think based on the experience we had, we will return to that again as the weather is nice. Probably during fundraising time, we will ask again if people would like to do a tour.
Most helpful because those little $50 donations, they do all add up.
Oh, absolutely.
And they helped us reach our goal.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, it was critical.
Which we know we appreciate, and I know the everybody here at the studio appreciates as well, because in these times of woe and want, when things are getting, just completely decimated at the funding level, we are suffering from that as well. Community radio is here for a purpose, and we need to make sure that it stays viable.
Here for a purpose in a way that it has never been needed before, in my opinion. We must now engage in community, folks. Politically speaking, community is going to be the grassroots of what is going to make real change happen in our future.
Are we going back to the barter system, Joey? Am I going to have to start raising chickens so I have eggs to barter with your cow that's giving milk? I don't know. Listen, I'm not...
I get eggs on my front porch.
I'm not crazy about going to Publix because I got to be honest with you. The prices these days are kind of outrageous, but
there you go.
I'm even less crazy about milking a cow. So we'll leave it right there. We'll ask our guest today what he thinks about all of this. Joey, who do we have in studio with us today?
Well, today I'm excited because we have a wave maker.
There you go.
I think he's a wave maker.
You made that word up.
I think he and his wife Janet made wave makers. That's a weird thing to think about. So we have with us today the journalist, political, local analyst figure,
bon vivant.
Tom Scherberger.
There you go, Tom.
Welcome, Tom.
I'll take that, bon vivant.
I love it. Raconteur.
Yes. So, Tom, this is you're here to talk today about something specific. We talk about the personal narrative, and then we go to whatever topic.
Tease it at the top, Joey. Tease it.
Yeah, we go to the topic of whatever it may be, and we're going to talk about a topic today is the primary reason you're here. But this is also an opportunity for us to get to know Tom Scherberger a little differently. Tom is, I've known Tom for many years. You used to...
Decades. Just go ahead and say it.
Yeah, decades. Tom is beginning to sort of look like a French impressionist now with his goatee. And because they were all bearded dudes. But back in the day when I was making waves in Ybor City as a sort of grassroots organizer, Tom was always, I was getting hit on by the media a lot in those days. Everybody wanted to know what the neighborhood thought.
And Tom was one of those guys.
And Tom was one of those guys.
Very
That's how I met Tom. And always a really nice gentleman about how he conducted himself. So it was very cool. But so Tom has this long history as a writer. In fact, we'll let you share your history a little bit. But first of all, Tom, where were you born?
I was actually born in Germany, in Landstuhl, Germany, when my dad was based there in the Army.
Really?
Yeah, Landstuhl Army Hospital, which is where all the troops who were wounded in Iraq and Afghanistan were taken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you weren't there very long, I assume?
3 years in Germany.
Really?
Yeah, don't remember a thing.
No German language hold over the...
None. I'm terrible with languages. No.
Oh, wow.
Well, I did take 2 years of German in high school, but it didn't stick.
Yeah. That's a tough language to
it is.
Out of the box.
And not one you
use.
Run into in Tampa very often.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. That's right. Ach du lieber. So...
early Tampa maybe more so, right? When the German immigrant was here in the lithographers.
German immigrants in Ybor City, they were the lithographers.
There you go.
And Mr. Reborn, his partners
but we digress.
So you're born in Germany, and then what happens?
Well, I always tell people I grew up in the military, so we moved around a lot. It seemed like we always ended up back in Virginia, so moved from, which is where my parents were born and raised in Norfolk, Virginia. Mm-hmm. And so we ended up going back to Virginia, went to another place in Virginia, then ended up going to Kansas for a year, back to Virginia. Mm-hmm. But then eventually we went to Hawaii.
Nice.
1966 to 1968, that was true paradise. It was beautiful.
In 66 to 68, the Beatles are in full swing. I mean, you're just getting introduced to that sun and those pineapples.
And the Young Rascals were my jam back then.
Come on, man.
There we go.
Good love, and give me that good love.
But then eventually had to move back to Virginia.
Right.
1968, we moved back to
And speaking of wave makers, did not Virginia make some waves last Tuesday?
Are you talking sports now, Mario?
No, sir. We're going deep into the politic world here. Virginia.
What'd they do?
Didn't they elect a new governor?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Come on now.
Their first female governor.
All right, let's ring one for them.
Yeah.
Salute.
No, Virginia's on the...
It's interesting because when I moved away from Virginia to Tampa in 1980, it was a pretty solidly Republican state, but it's definitely changed.
That's
it's a much more
thanks to the current
state.
climate.
I think that's healthy news.
Yes, it is.
That's healthy news. So let me, while we are at this intersection, let me ask you, Tom, what is your insight on this idea that whenever I meet somebody who is what's euphemistically called a military brat, there are always people who I find interesting. What is it about that? Is there something about those experiences of moving a lot that is somehow enriching? Usually the military brat's not the slow person in the room.
Well, I mean, when you grow up moving from one place to another every 2 or 3 years, you get used to different people. You have to meet new people. You have to figure out ways to fit in. It wasn't always easy. I'm not going to lie to you.
Well, that's sort of what I was getting at. I would think it'd be difficult.
It was difficult. I remember when I first moved to Hawaii, I didn't have any friends there, and I was having a hard time kind of connecting. And
How old were you when you moved there?
I was 12.
Okay.
But eventually, found some
12
friends.
12 to 15.
I found some friends, and it was like, it's a wonderful life. But I had had a similar experience when we lived in Fort Monroe, Virginia, before Hawaii. Mm-hmm. And, growing up on military bases is very similar to growing up in small towns. Mm-hmm. Everything you need is right there. It's very safe, and we're talking the 60s, and so the only rule was to get
home in time.
Get home in
before
time.
And so street lights came on. Yeah.
Or when the sun sets, or 6 o'clock for dinner, or when my mom whistled.
It was your mom that whistled?
Yeah.
Most of us, it was our dads. Yeah. Was your mom had the whistle?
No, she was whistling.
Can you remember the whistle? Can you remember what it sounded like? Those are the
she
first.
Was a whistler.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Those are the first 2 notes.
Yeah.
Of Lassie. I'm just going to say. Those were the first 2 notes of the theme song from Lassie.
Wow.
Maybe she was a fan.
Could be.
Wow.
Wouldn't be surprised.
Mario Freud.
Sorry.
So
I do think military brats, you kind of get used to trying to, fit in, meet new people.
Survival skills top notch.
So, yeah.
Plus
Because
self-reliance, I assume, that you have to kind of figure out, you can't just relax in the social setting that you're in like I did for my entire life in one place.
Me too.
Right.
Although when I moved back to Norfolk when I was 13, it took me, I never really did fit anywhere. It wasn't until I got to college. I went to college at Old Dominion University, and that's where I really kind of came.
So let's talk about that.
own.
Now you're in college.
Yeah.
By the way, did you have siblings?
Oh, I was fifth of six.
yikes,
Wow.
that's a big pot of soup.
Catholic family.
Yes.
Yep.
Wow.
For the first 7 years, I was the youngest, and then my sister came along.
I see. So you were the baby, and then she was the baby.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, there you go.
So I went to Old Dominion University, studied political science, and mostly went there because that's where my dad said, that's where I'm going to pay for you to go. So that's where.
And Tom was just wily enough to take him up on it.
So I applied, I got in, and
And what happened there?
Well, I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. Like a lot of students, you're trying to figure out who you are and what you can do and what you want to do. And I thought about being a teacher, and so a few weeks in the classroom disabused me of that notion. So then I had to go back and figure out what to do. And then I started. I had a cousin who was working at the college newspaper, and I wrote some letter to the editor, and somehow the editor said, "Hey, you can actually write. Did you think about writing for the newspaper?" I'm like, well, I never thought about it before, so that's what I ended up doing.
Good communication skills
and
always.
Then I got a job actually, because at that point I was out of the house. I was trying to support myself. I was literally a janitor at the student union.
Wow.
Okay, because it was a
Mop and bucket.
One of those student work. I learned how to mop.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I can
Mop and-
polish floors. You wouldn't believe. Clean out toilets. It was terrible. But then I ended up getting a job at the university's, basically the PR department, But there I also learned how to write news stories. They had an actual former journalist there. So I probably learned more there and at the college newspaper than I did in my college courses. I didn't take I took one journalism class. I was, like I said, a political science major. So at some point, like, wow, I could actually do this for a living. But unfortunately, it was right after Watergate. Everybody wanted to be a reporter. I sent out resumes to probably 50 different newspapers in the mid-Atlantic states, Virginia, Pennsylvania,
Maryland.
North Carolina, Maryland. Got maybe 2 job offers, interviews. One was to be a news editor at the Elizabeth City paper in North Carolina, and the other, if you don't know what a news editor is, you're taking wire stories, you're laying out stories, the A desk, the A section, things like that. Not what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a reporter, so I took a job at the Northern Virginia Daily in Woodstock, Virginia.
Wow.
Which is in the heart of the Shenandoah Valley.
Cool.
Beautiful.
Lot of history.
Country, a lot of history. I mean, going back to the Revolutionary War.
There you go.
That's how far back they go. Not the most exciting place for someone who's 22, 23 years old, but ended up staying there a couple of years. Went to work at the Petersburg Progress Index, which is just south of Richmond. That was an afternoon newspaper. Like we could talk about that later.
Still in the same capacity, still writing?
I was a reporter.
Okay.
Covered City Hall, and but terrible. It was owned by Thompson Newspapers. That taught me how important ownership of newspapers was, because, I mean, it was crazy. They were so cheap.
You had to buy your own steno pads. You had to buy your own reporters.
Exactly right. Yeah, they took spent newsprint and cut them in half, and we would roll them into our manual typewriters to write our stories. Okay. That's how cheap they were.
Wow.
So a friend of mine who had worked there even less time than I did got a job at the Tampa Times. And I called him up and said, Andy,
Anything going on for me down there?
you got to get me out of here. And they actually had an opening, and they were ready to hire me over the phone. Bruce Whitwer was the managing editor.
What year was this, Tom?
This was 1980.
Okay.
Wow.
Right about the time you guys met, right?
Yeah, it's a few years
it's a little
later.
earlier.
Okay.
A little earlier, yeah.
You
You were in the mid-'80s, right? 83, 84?
I met Tom after we I founded the Neighborhood Association, so that'd be probably 93.
Okay.
Oh, okay, yeah. I was writing a column for the Tampa Tribune at that point.
We miss our
Maybe
times,
a
too,
little
by the
bit
way,
earlier.
and our Tribune.
So you were in Tampa. So you got
So
to
I
Tampa
worked for the
early.
Tampa Times.
Yeah.
Yes.
And for
Afternoon
those of
Daily.
you who don't know about that, that was an afternoon newspaper.
Yep.
And for those of you who don't know about that, that was a newspaper that was actually delivered to your driveway.
Absolutely.
In the afternoon.
4 p.m.
Yeah.
4 p.m. It was
4 or
on
5 o'clock.
Yep.
It would be there in your driveway.
Absolutely.
Television killed it, basically. Traffic, hard to get the newspapers everywhere. But I spent a couple of years there. It was great. Some of my closest friends that I've made in my life, I met there at the Tampa Times. We were all young and hungry, and we were competing against the Tampa Tribune, which had 10 times the circulation, and it made us very happy whenever we beat them.
Can I tell you, Tom, what young people like myself in the early 70s, say from 68 to about 74 or 5, appreciated about the Times is they were hyper-local, and they covered all of youth athletics, right? Like PAL football. They covered Little League baseball. So if you had a particularly good game, one game, you could look forward to seeing your name in the paper, in the Times especially, the next afternoon.
Oh, yeah.
And it was wonderful.
Every lead story on the front page had to be a local story. And so there were times where,
You stressed a little bit?
I still remember
Miss Johnson's cat in the
penny
tree?
shortage hits Tampa.
There you go.
Banner headline. Or I wrote a story covering City Hall when residents had gone to City Council to complain about crime in Ybor City. This was probably 1980, 81. Ybor residents huddle in fear was the banner headline. It was
There you
a
go.
little over the top.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Dog bites man.
Man bites dog, yeah. There you go.
So a couple
Tampa
years
Times.
there, afternoon newspapers,
But good training ground, right?
great training ground.
Yeah.
Right.
I had to learn how to write really fast because our deadlines were very early. And there were many times I was at City Hall at a city council meeting.
Then you got to
or
file that
later at a
report
county
right now.
commission meeting. No, I had to file it off the top of my head over the phone. There's somebody in the
Makes
newsroom
sense. Makes
taking
sense.
dictation while I am just like Tampa City
What
Council.
would deadline have been? 1?
Oh, no, it was
1 p.m.?
earlier. No, it was earlier than that.
Okay,
It was
yeah,
like
'cause you gotta go to
11.
press.
It was 11.
Okay.
Yeah. But then afternoon newspapers were starting to fold. And it was 2 weeks after I left for the Orlando Sentinel that the Tampa Times was folded by the Tampa Tribune, and some of the
Incorporated it a little bit.
Some of the reporters were picked up by the Tribune. Some Tribune reporters are actually laid off to accommodate those Tribune reporters.
Was Leland Hawes with you at the Times and he merged over to the Tribune, or was he always with the Tribune? Because he used to cover the history and heritage section on the Bay Life section in the back of the Bay Life section, as I recall. I think.
I don't know.
Leland
I don't
Hawes.
think he was a Tampa Times alum. He was at the Tribune.
Okay.
He was involved with. I think they called it Part 4 at one point.
Thank you.
Yeah, the
Thank
feature.
you.
It was the feature.
The
section.
feature section,
And he
yeah.
had writing history, which was
Heritage and
fantastic.
history. It was wonderful.
Fantastic. Yeah. So after a couple of years there, I went to the Orlando Sentinel, and these were the salad days. We didn't know it, but I mean,
I was just thinking.
Explain that, what that reference is.
I mean, it means that they were making money hand over fist. I mean, newspapers at that point some of them had 30% profit margins. Okay.
Wow.
It was incredible how much money they were making.
Were they sharing that with the scribes? Were they sharing that with the
not at the
street
Tampa
level
Times.
employees?
I mean, I do remember when I was at the Orlando Sentinel, at one point, the editor called me up. I was out on the road on an assignment, and he said, "We're going to give you a raise." We looked at the salaries, and we've determined that you're being underpaid. Which, of course,
Yeah. Thank you.
they got me
Thank you.
cheap from the Tampa Times. Of course, they were underpaying me.
Right.
So I had, and that was a good experience.
Sure.
But they were making so much money that we had this insane but brilliant editor, David Bergen, who had worked at the New York Herald Tribune and the Washington Star and all sorts of stuff, Dallas Times Herald, and he decided we needed a Tampa bureau.
Okay.
Why? Because he was obsessed with the St. Petersburg Times. And he actually wanted to open this bureau across the street from the St. Pete Times, just to show
show
Andy
them that they're-
Barnes,
We're
but-
here, deal with it.
But the state editor and I convinced him, you kind of need to be in Tampa. That's the center of everything in the West Coast.
That's right.
So had a little office on Madison Street. A couple floors up was the St. Pete Times Bureau. So this was like 1983, okay? At the time, the St. Pete Times was treating Tampa like it was a foreign bureau. They had maybe 2 reporters in Tampa. it's kind of amazing when you think about it.
How big our county is in Tampa.
Now
Yeah,
they're down
the activity.
to that few now in Tampa, but I digress. That was a great. Before I went to Tampa, I was there. I had covered the county commission in Orange County. I had been an on the road kind of general assignment state reporter, just going all over the place, writing great stories, and then was sent to Tampa. Before I was sent to Tampa, though, I had the greatest assignment of my life, which was to cover every non-sports thing going on with the first Super Bowl in Tampa. They sent me to Tampa for 11 nights. I was at the Hyatt downtown.
Come on.
Now the Hilton. It was fantastic.
Yeah,
it was
I
fantastic.
would think so.
Yeah.
And what would be an example of one
a
of those things?
non-sports,
that,
yeah.
What would be an example of that?
I did a profile of Tom McEwen.
Okay.
Okay, they're like great.
I did a story about how Disney was going to be doing the halftime show. Now, before Disney did the halftime show, the halftime shows for the Super Bowl were just marching bands and stuff.
Of course.
But then once Disney came in,
Full-on production.
it was a full-on production, and I still remember the Roman candles that had been affixed all around Tampa Stadium. And at one point, they all went off, and it was like a rocket ship. It was incredible. I think at that point, the Super Bowl realized, I think we can do more with our halftime.
There's potential here.
Yeah. Bad Bunny would know that.
Yeah.
But once I was in Tampa, a bunch of my friends from the Tampa Times were taking over at the Tribune, and I didn't really want to go back to Orlando, but I've been alone in this bureau by myself for a couple of years. I thought, okay, I'll go to the Tribune. That'll be kind of fun. Mm-hmm. I'm ready to switch from reporting to editing, so I became an editor, assistant county editor.
Is that the normal progression? Is that kind
Reporter
of
to
if you
editor?
stay in that editor, then how does that ascension work?
Yeah. You normally you learn how to be a reporter.
An editor must be a writer, of course.
Well, it doesn't have to be, but if you're going to send reporters out on an assignment, it's helpful if you've actually done it.
If you know what they're doing.
What they're doing.
If you're going to be a coach, you better have been a player before it makes it easier to be a good coach.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be.
What they didn't do at the time was to give you any management training at all.
Okay.
They said, go
do it.
Learn from all the various supervisors you've had over the years. And
Wow.
whether they were good or bad, So.
And so then what happens next?
I ended up, from there, I became the Metro editor. Actually, they called me assistant Metro editor, but I was actually the Metro editor. So I was in charge of 50 reporters and editors. It was a big job.
That's a hustle.
I had the Tallahassee Bureau. I had all the, City Hall, all of that, all of it. And we had a lot of big news then. And so I had learned how much fun it was to beat the Tribune when I was at the Tampa Times. So then I learned how much fun it would be to beat the St. Pete Times at the Tampa Tribune. And then after, 2.5 years of that, of being an editor, sadly, a great columnist, Todd Smith, was killed by terrorists in Peru. On his own time, he had gone down there because we weren't going to send him. But his column became available, so I took his column. So I wrote a column for 2.5 years. Mm-hmm. And I would like to say it was 5 days a week. Mm-hmm. Every day. So going back
Deadline
to
every
the
day,
Tampa
Tom.
Times experience, of churning out copy and writing it fast came in very handy.
Right.
It was a reported column. It wasn't just like, here's what I think about something and fill out the column. I was actually doing reporting.
Mm-hmm. Reporting, researching.
Trying to break stories.
Yeah.
In my column.
So that's pretty rigorous. Your whole life was focused on that, I assume, pretty much.
Yeah.
And how old are you at this time? In your 30s?
Yeah. 30s.
Late 30s?
So it was, I left in 1992 for the St. Pete Times.
Okay. So you did finally get over to St. Pete.
I finally got to the St. Pete Times.
See, you went the route.
Well, I'll be honest.
Survival.
When I went for that column, I thought this could be fun, but also maybe I'll get the editor's attention at the St. Pete Times because that's really what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
It was a much better newspaper, and they paid better. And that's what happened.
And to this day, Joey, I don't know how you feel about it, but I wish we still had the St. Pete Times. I know the Tampa Bay Times is the Tampa Bay Times, but there was something real special about the Tampa Times, the afternoon paper, and I had the same affection and affinity for the St. Pete Times. I just liked it that it was the St. Pete Times and it wasn't the Tampa anything.
Well, plus it was a brand that they had burnished for more than 100 years.
Thank you.
And to just throw that brand away.
Thank you, Tom.
In this ridiculous
for mentioning
idea that we're going to win over Tampa readers by just changing the name, that turned out not to be true.
Right. Yeah.
It was also happening at a time when newspapers were dying. I mean, they just were. But Paul Tash, who was the editor at the time and the CEO, he didn't see it. He was completely committed to newsprint and wanted nothing to do with the web.
Hell or high water, he was going to have a newspaper.
Sold Congressional Quarterly, which had been started by Nelson Pointer, the original owner of the Pointer Institute. Sold Congressional Quarterly, which at that time was one of the few online news sites that was making money through subscriptions.
Mm-hmm. And this was early days in that.
So instead of investing in that and growing that business, which is what Nelson Pointer would have done,
he tacked away.
They sold it, took the profits, and invested it into the dying newspaper. And that continued for years. They continued to sell off all of their assets.
And throwing money in that hole.
Instead of trying to create a new business.
You would think they would be doing demographic studies of who's reading papers and who's not.
Well, I think the best and the worst thing that Nelson Pointer did was to make sure that it was an independent newspaper and to put journalists in charge. Okay, journalists are not business people. So when you're printing money,
different set of priorities.
Boom, you're making 30% profits. You have profit sharing. You have cost of living increases. You think this is never going to end. You don't really need business people running the business. But what is the business of newspapers? Professor of mine in college, I never forget that. What is the business of newspapers? Oh, the First Amendment. Oh, inform the public. Blah blah blah. No, the business of newspapers is to make money.
Sell those newspapers.
And never forget that. No, it's advertising.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
The business of newspapers is and was advertising. And so first you had afternoon newspapers that were cratering because you had the evening newscasts. So people could just put their feet up, turn on the TV, and they didn't have to read.
Right.
Then the internet came along. And that ate the monopoly that they had on mass advertising. And the result is what we're seeing today. Newspapers have folded all over the country. We have probably a fourth of the number of reporters literally on the ground that we had 15 years ago. You don't have enough reporters to cover the government.
Right.
And here we are.
But ultimately, the financial value of that of advertising is based on readership. So if you don't understand who your readers are, which my experience has been as a layperson watching this from the outside, is that the people who were reading newspapers during this decline of newspapers were older people, but not younger people. So older people are going to die.
And unfortunately, that was a trap for the Times because they had such a high, they called it a penetration rate. What percentage of the households actually got the newspaper? And it was very high in their home market of Pinellas County. Why? Because there were, at that time, so many old people who read newspapers. That's what they wanted.
Right.
And in the afternoon, it was something to look forward to.
That's
because
right.
you figured you'd get the latest news. And praise be that we still have local newspapers like I said, and like even Penny Saver, as pedestrian as you think Penny Saver is, it still gives you the hyper-local flavor and creative loafing as well. These are things that just come to mind.
And don't forget the Gabber.
Thank you.
They're doing it.
Yep.
Well, and isn't it public notices that still have to be published, and at least that could be a little small revenue stream?
Eventually that's going to go away. The newspaper publishers have managed to keep that in there somehow. I don't know. Because it's really expensive to advertise.
But our friend Patrick Montega does well with those.
He does really well.
He's staying afloat. And he's got that niche. He's got the only trilingual newspaper in the United States, so that also has a little bit of...
He would be in big trouble without those legal notices, Mario. He would be.
I agree. It's about a third of the paper in the back.
But bless him. Bless that man.
Let's take a moment and do a station identifier, and then when we come back, we'll talk to Tom a little bit more about why he's here today specifically.
Hi, I'm David Bryant, Mr. White Pepper, and you're listening to The Conversation with Mario Nunez and Joe King Carter on WMNF 88.5 FM in Tampa.
White Pep.
Hey, there he
That
is.
was such a great show. And if you didn't get a chance to hear it last week, we encourage everybody to go into the archives and look up that show last week.
And by the way, for people out there listening who listen to his show on Friday nights,
Soul Kitchen.
Absolutely. White Pep is a very, very nice man and a very giving man to the community, and we just all love him here.
And Eddie G does too.
And he was a big
absolutely.
supporter of the Wavemaker show that my wife Janet and I did for WMNF for a couple of years. He was always supporting us, sending us emails, calling.
Yeah.
He's a great guy.
His whole life is tied up in the nonprofit world, and he gets it, you know.
And speaking of Wave Makers, what a nice segue. Aren't you doing something presently, Tom, in the new iteration of Wave Makers?
Before we do that, let's talk about the original Wave Makers, the show you had with your wife, Janet.
Right. So after newspapers, I spent 10 years in public relations, by the way. I did 2 years at the USF St. Pete, then I did 2 years at Eckerd College, and then 6 years for Pat Frank, the legend clerk of the court. And then I retired from there about 5 years ago. And, for a while I did nothing. Spent a lot of time
bit of
reading.
Tampa Tiger Bay.
I was president of Tampa Tiger Bay Club, right?
There you
So
go.
that was not nothing.
That was not nothing. That was something.
Yeah,
No,
right.
I was for 2 years. I was president of Tiger Bay Club. So, but after that, I needed something more to do. So my wife Janet had been co-hosting with Shelley Reback on her show. A show became available, MNF, and Janet asked me if I wanted to co-host it. So I said sure. So we did that for 2 years. But
Great show, by the way.
Well, thank you so much. One of the reasons I wanted to do that was to try to get information out there because of the shrinking media landscape that we have. MNF, under leadership of Randy Zimmerman, is really rebuilding its newsroom, really much more focused on delivering news to people, and I wanted to be a part of that. But I am retired. And it was starting to seem too much like work. So at the end of December, we
understand.
We put the headset down and walked away from that, but I wanted to stay involved. And so I pitched to Sean Canan, the news director here, the idea of starting a in-person speakers series. I had also done some volunteer work with Cafe Con Tampa for a couple of years on their board. So I had a lot of experience, putting on speaker events, basically. Cafe Con Tampa is every week.
Full swing.
8 o'clock on Friday morning.
So early.
Yeah, it's a rigorous
So
schedule.
It is tough, especially for
If you
a
live far away,
retiree.
yeah, oh man.
For a
On
retiree,
a cold morning,
getting
get out of
up
that warm
being
bed.
there at 8 o'clock on a Friday morning. So I stopped doing that, but I had some experience doing that, and Tiger Bay Club is once a month, and so I thought, well, maybe we can do something along those lines. So I pitched the idea to Sean, and Sean said, "Hey, yeah, I've been wanting to do something. Like, how about you go do it?" So
Right.
You put it together, you do it.
Yeah.
So we had our first, what we're calling Wave Makers Live event about 3 months ago. And we're having them at the Commodore in Ybor City.
A favorite home for
come on.
both Mario and I.
Come on.
We love everybody there. They've been on our shows.
It's a fantastic
Home away
place.
from home?
It's really amazing.
because it's the real deal.
And
That's why.
it's a great fit for WMNF.
Yeah.
We have the same values, and it's also
100%.
it's a relatively small venue. So we had about 50 people at our first event, which featured Nadine Smith, and she talked about. She's an activist, right? I mean, she has a show here at WMNF once a week, but she's been doing Equality Florida now, fighting for civil rights for 30 years. So she really knows how to resist, how to fight. Wave Makers was always about having people on the show who were not only concerned about stuff, but was actually doing stuff. We wanted activists. We wanted people who were involved in the community. So that's what I'm trying to do, try to bring some of those folks here now. So we're doing this quarterly. So every 3 months, we'll have another show next week at the Commodore.
Okay.
On the 20th. Doors open at 7. Show starts at 7:30. $10 in advance. We can say that because it's a WMNF event.
Absolutely.
$15 at
If
the door.
not, Sean will come flying through that door and rip your headset off.
And we're going to be speaking to William Osceola, who is the secretary of the Miccosukee tribe of Indians in the Everglades.
Yes. Now, let me inject quickly. For those listening, we have a monthly mission here that we fulfill every month. We try to. It's not always.
It's not always possible, but we
try. And this month is
Indigenous
Peoples Month, and therefore this makes a lot more. This is really apropos.
It is. I wasn't really even aware that it was Indigenous.
We tied that bow, a nice little bow.
But we had him on our show, and he's a very interesting guy. The Miccosukees are fascinating. We're familiar with the Seminoles. Mm-hmm. They're much bigger than the Miccosukees. We have a Seminole Reservation here in Tampa with a casino. So people are familiar with the Seminoles, but they may not be familiar. I think a lot of people are not even aware of the Miccosukee tribe.
And that's in South Florida, correct?
They're literally in the Everglades.
There you
go. They live in the Everglades, in the big Cypress Preserve. And they have joined with the Friends of the Everglades in a lawsuit to get rid of, basically, the concentration camp that the state built there.
It's funny how
I don't even want to call it what they're calling it.
I know. We heard that name ad nauseum, and then all of a sudden we don't even hear of it anymore. I would never wish for a bad storm to come through Florida for any reason, but I kind of was privately wishing that one would come through just to blow everything away and just eradicate all that mess.
It's a whole separate subject,
alligator, whatever.
Well, they had an initial victory on the district court level. In federal court, the judge said this was
illegal.
Violated. They didn't do any environmental studies at all.
They just rolled the trucks in.
Literally built in a national preserve. Now, what does preserve mean? Can anyone try to...
The definition of the word preserve.
It doesn't mean building
Preservation doesn't mean development necessarily.
Not new development.
New development.
You can preserve it the way it is. The goal is to keep it the way it is. Now,
that old cigar factory, you better leave it alone.
And the way it is there are people living there, so they're not going around... In the Everglades National Park, they ended up buying a lot of property and getting rid of properties, homes and things like that. But the Miccosukees make their home there and have for centuries. Mm-hmm. And that's why we're calling this show Miccosukee Unconquered. So 50 years ago, the Miccosukees and the Friends of the Everglades also went to court to stop the development of a giant airport that was going to be built in the Everglades.
Is that where the runway, when the runway was replaced?
Yeah, that's where there's an airstrip there now where the concentration camp has been built.
Correct.
And that's been their excuse. Oh, well, there's an airstrip there. It's not like it's pristine.
Exactly.
But so they not only sued, they won, they stopped the airport, and then they lobbied Congress to create the preserve. So the very first preserve in the country is Big Cypress.
Interesting.
And so what did they do? That is the place that they decided to build this camp just because they could troll people and call it Alligator Alcatraz.
This is what's been happening in this administration, and isn't it important? We talk about it all the time, Joe and I, that elections have consequences, and there's not going to be a bigger election than the one for governor in November of 2026 here in the state of Florida. Tom, would you mind if I open up the phone lines in case somebody has a question for you? They might want to ask you a particular question. Is that
Please
okay?
do. Just remember next Thursday, 7:30 at the Commodore.
And if you want to know where...
And that's when the real questions will be answered.
100%.
Well, that's when you'll get to hear their story.
That's right.
Who are you? Why are you living in the Everglades? And why are you fighting this?
Fascinating. And of course, it's open. It's a Q&A, kind of an open. It's that kind of a friendly environment.
We'll spend about an hour talking, and then we'll have about a half hour of questions.
That's beautiful. If you'd like to get in on the conversation today with our guest, Tom Scherberger, please give us a call now as we're rounding the corner into the home stretch. 813-239-9663. You can send us a text at 813-433-0885. We've got Jessica standing by for your emails, dj@wmnf.org. Please, let's hear from you. If you've got a question, a comment, you'd like to talk to Tom.
And
Tom,
by the way,
this is fascinating.
My wife Janet has a lot to do with the fact that we're having this because she works for the Florida Humanities, which is the Florida affiliate of the National Humanities. Mm-hmm. And she puts together these gatherings, they call them. They're history tours about twice a year. And about a year ago, we had one in the Everglades. We were based in Everglades City, and we really, really got to know the Everglades, and we got to meet Miccosukees. We did a airboat ride that's run by a Miccosukee. Went to Miccosukee Island that they use to this day.
How was that? I mean, what
it
an
was
experience!
Fascinating.
I hope you did it during the winter.
And I remember we were on a bus going to Shark Valley, which is another part of the Everglades. The part of the Everglades, Everglades are kind of two parts. You've got the Everglades that people think of with, it's the river of grass.
With the airboats, yeah.
You got the airboats, and then you got the Big Cypress Preserve, which is swamps and huge trees and things like that. And anyway, we're driving on Tamiami Trail, US 41, and we're passing the site of what was going to be an airport. And so I took the microphone and gave them a little bit of history about that. And you can't really see the airport from the 41. But they were all like, oh, wow, we had no idea. So now people are
where'd
much
this
more
airstrip come from? Right in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
How'd they build that in its inception? Well, we asked for some calls, and we're getting a couple of them. Let's see, before we get too far into the weeds on this, let's go to Jerry in St. Pete. Jerry, you're on the air. Do you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, thank you, guys. So I'm a landscape architect, and I just realized today, thank you for doing what you're doing with the Miccosukee tribe, and that's extraordinarily relevant. But I just realized today that the White House, I'm assuming, to my knowledge, is a no-bid contract. It didn't go out to bid. It was appointed. The president doesn't own that building. He doesn't own that building. So relative to the Miccosukee work also, the White House was a no-bid contract. I'm not even sure if that's legal. It hasn't. It's as relevant as the Miccosukee issue. What do you think? Do you want me to take that off the air?
Well, I think in the case of...
Thank you, Jerry. We'll go ahead and take you off the air, but Tom will answer your question. Thank you for your call.
Thank you.
Well, it's relevant in the sense that they did build this concentration camp without bids. They've spent hundreds of millions of dollars to do it, which is astonishing.
It's unbelievable.
Given that they're much cheaper. They opened another one up in North Florida.
By Jacksonville, no?
Yeah, Star Camp Landing, I guess it is. Just, a few $1 million.
Why did they do it, Tom? It's a trick question. Don't fall for it. Why did they do it, Tom? Because they could. Why did he tear down the East Wing?
Because they thought it would be funny.
Yeah, no, of course.
Alligator Alcatraz, they can keep talking about that.
This is not a serious man nor a serious administration, but some of the things they're doing, besides the illegality, it's immoral, and this is part of that.
And by the way, speaking of that sort of side issue, I started doing a little looking backwards in research because I'm a lay historian now in Ybor City, and all things about Florida fascinate me and its history. This concept of taunting people with the idea that prisoners or captives inside that camp, if they should happen to escape, well, they'll be eaten by alligators. We have a long history of memorabilia, postcards of African Americans, black people being eaten by alligators. It is so profoundly offensive because there's a whole subtext there of racism involved in that. And that's not a small thing, by the way. If you go back and look into the history of Florida, Florida was renowned as a place where, if people get out into the woods or something, they're going to get eaten by an alligator. And maybe those people will be the people you want to be eaten by an alligator.
Yeah, maybe they deserve it in some way.
So it's profoundly offensive and racist.
It never made sense. It never made sense.
Right.
The Miccosukee see this as both an environmental travesty and an offense to their culture.
Thank you.
This is their home and has been their home for
hundreds
centuries.
of years. Yeah.
Unlike the Seminoles, they were sent on the Trail of Tears. I mean, God bless them. I mean, some of them went to Fort Brooke, right? Went to Egmont Key, ended up, but many of them escaped and they came back. And in order to get away from the troops who were going to kill them, they went to the Everglades because nobody wanted to live there. And so the Miccosukees, William Osceola will talk about the history next week.
You can tease it out. You can tease it out.
But how they became recognized by the United States is a fascinating story that you can hear if you come to Wavemakers Live Thursday.
Yes.
At 7:30.
Expert job of promoting Tommy.
$10 in
Okay.
advance, $15
At the door.
Go to WMNF.org to buy your tickets.
By
And
the way,
And buy some for your friends.
Yeah,
so
bring
they
a
can
friend.
see.
Don't
Yeah,
come alone. Bring
Yeah.
a friend. And the best part about
it's sort of like Tiger. I tell people this is like Cafe Con Tampa with wine.
there you go. I was just going to say they
Because we
have
sell
adult
wine and
beverages.
beer there.
Yeah,
They have adult beverages.
And
yeah, this is going to be a great event. I already see this is going to be a great event.
If you need to know where this is located, the Commodore, it's okay. It's on the southwest corner of Nebraska and 7th, right there at the entrance to 7th, off of Nebraska. It's a white building there. Those of you that may have had the opportunity to visit the Flan Factory, which is a wonderful eatery right there. They make a tremendous Cuban sandwich.
One of the best in town, really.
No, sincerely.
Yeah.
And they call it El Tampeño. Oh, where did we hear that before? They call their sandwich El Tampeño. Well, it's around the corner. It's on 7th. The door to the Commodore is off of 7th. But it's really easy access, plenty of parking.
Right on the corner is La Septima,
which is a very nouveau riche kind of
Very
a cool,
nice place,
chic
yeah.
bar to
It's
come
awesome.
in. You can pregame there, have a libation there, and then
Or
walk
post game.
over.
We had a little post game.
That's even better
gathering
because by that
afterwards.
time everybody's already kind of known each other. Got to meet each other. It's a great place.
Yeah.
So yeah, please join us on Thursday.
We'll be recording this conversation. I hope you can come.
Do you run
experience
video
it.
on this,
Because
Tommy? Do you
really
run
think-
video on it?
Well, we don't run video, but
Audio?
we do audio.
Okay.
One of the reasons I want to do this is what I found with Tiger Bay Club and with Cafe Con Tampa is it makes a huge difference to see people in person, and also to bring people together.
Yes.
In one room who have shared values, or maybe they have different views, but we can talk about them in a civilized way, and to do it in person. I think since COVID, so much stuff is done virtually now that I think people are hungry
The human touch.
for coming together
Yep.
and talking about
I
some
think
of these
that's
important
absolutely
issues.
true.
And I think that's the way you inspire people. And I guess, we're with this series, we're starting a little bit of a theme of resistance, which is kind of the theme that WMNF has adopted here. We're going to resist
Not kinda, it has.
the right
We
wing.
have bumper stickers, Tommy. We have bumper
Yeah.
stickers.
Resistance Radio. We're resisting the rise of the right wing.
Right.
And so, we had Nadine Smith, who has been fighting for civil rights for decades, and now we're having William Osceola.
And Nadine's show is just, I was listening this week, it's just such a great asset for the community and for WMNF.
A former journalist. I sat right next to her when I was writing that column for the Tampa Tribune.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So suffice it
She's
to say
excellent.
that William is a descendant of Chief Osceola, and at some point, or do we know?
We'll talk about that. I don't really know. I mean,
let's ring that bell.
It's interesting within the Miccosukee culture is you could have the same name, but they're different clans. So one of probably the best known Miccosukee member who has been fighting the concentration camp in the Everglades is Betty Osceola. But they're
relation.
different clans.
Yep.
Same last name, but no relation.
Well, in Tampa, it's like, are you a member of the Ybor City Ramoris or the West Tampa Ramoris? Because it's the same last name, but what part of the river are you from?
By the way, for folks who are listening, I was talking a moment ago about doing research because of history, because Vicente Martinez Ybor came in 1885. Everything about that time period and before, I've been doing. It sort of causes me to tangent off into these areas like the Gilded Age and things, and the status of Native Americans, indigenous peoples in Florida prior to that time and throughout its entire history is fascinatingly complex.
It is.
And I don't think that people realize how complicated it is because in part, one reason is that it was a Spanish territory and freed slaves ran to Florida to escape the powers be at the time. And so you have this interesting admixture of indigenous black tribes, and then you have these the Calusas, you have all these the Seminoles, you have all these tribes.
Tocobagan.
And I don't think people are aware of how complicated that history was, and it's rich. And what the Miccosukes are doing down there is so amazing because of their desire to take up politics and fight for their community.
They have an embassy in Tallahassee now. I think they spent a lot of time being very insular.
Right.
And not doing a lot of outreach. And now
Well, they got forced out. They got forced into defending themselves, if you will.
Right. So,
And you keep hoping the bad guys will just go away.
right. And so now they have an embassy in Tallahassee because they
realize.
need to have good. And what's odd is I think that it took them a little while to get comfortable with the idea of suing the state over this, because they have been trying really hard to have a good relationship with the government, with the American government or the state government. And so they didn't sue lightly. They joined the lawsuit after the Friends of the Everglades.
As Thanksgiving is
interesting.
rapidly approaching, hasn't it always been sort of a Native American mantra that we're going to make peace, we're going to try to get along? I don't know, Tommy, what do you think was in the peace pipe on that first Thanksgiving? And I don't think it was tobacco, because I don't think they would have gotten Manhattan for baubles and beads had they not been a little happy.
Could be.
But I'm just saying it's always been, I think
They just want to be left alone.
That's right.
Really.
Yeah.
Just leave us alone. They were here first.
Stop putting concentration camps in the middle of our community.
That would be
How
good.
about that?
And just respect the environmental laws we have.
Respect.
Have some respect. I mean,
And it's a struggle enough down there because of the sugar industry and all the other things that have happened.
Oh, yeah.
We
It's a
could talk
struggle
about
down
that.
there to begin with.
We could talk about that,
and people don't realize that the Everglades is the barometer of health for the state of Florida's ecosystem.
Well, and they have been. We're spending billions of dollars to try to restore the Everglades, and then they do this.
Right.
It makes no sense. But that's where we are.
Yeah,
So,
right.
And if we could find something to do with the boa constrictors that are down there, something creative, like if we could just find a
pythons.
sancocho,
The pythons.
pythons, a sofrito that can make the python delicious.
the
Then we-
pythons are
then we can go after 'em.
wreaking havoc in the
Of
Everglades.
course they are.
It's
They're destroying.
terrible.
It's tragic.
They're destroying all the smaller
Yes.
animals. They're
The
going after
ecosystem.
gators. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
You've seen the pictures, Tom?
When my wife and I were in the Everglades, we got to meet a python hunter.
Wow.
He has a pizza shop in Everglades City. If you're
Tell
ever
me he
there.
doesn't put that python meat on the pizza. I don't know. What
He
are you
does
gonna
not.
do?
He
Thank
does
you.
not. But
Thank you.
you can buy, python skin wallets and
And
purses
they get big
things like that.
and they're prolific breeders.
Oh, it's
so
unbelievable.
They're decimating.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And he goes out in the swamps barefooted to go after these pythons.
That's a real man.
Wow.
That's a real man.
Yeah.
That's pretty rugged, folks. I don't like to go to the bathroom barefooted.
One more time, we're just about. You made me lose my train of thought, Joey, when you said the visualization. Just before we have to sign off here in just a minute or two, Tom, one more time, tell us where we can find you coming up next Thursday. It's this Thursday or next?
It's a week from tomorrow.
A week from tomorrow.
At the Commodore in Ybor City. It's 7th and Nebraska. It's Wavemakers Live featuring William Osceola. He's the youngest elected member of the Miccosukee tribe. He was just reelected secretary. They had an election, I think, just this week. And so tickets are $10 in advance, $15 at the door. Go to WMNF.org to buy your tickets in advance, or just show up at the door. We'll be happy to accommodate you. There's parking, as Mario said. There's beer, there's wine, there's soft drinks. It'll be great if everybody can come there because, like I said, this is all about trying to bring people together to talk about important issues face to face rather than, fighting with each other, fighting with strangers on Facebook. That's not going to get you anywhere.
That's correct.
And my guess is these elections that the Miccosukee have are probably very fair, very balanced, and very above board because they believe in respect and they believe in doing the process the way it's supposed to be.
I hope so.
Yeah,
I hope so.
I'm guessing
It's a
so.
very small tribe, by the way. It's only...
How old of a gentleman is
it's
William?
about-
How old a gentleman is William?
He's in his 30s.
Okay, he's a young guy.
Yeah, he's a young guy.
There you go. Could be our sons. Any one of
I
our
imagine
sons.
when I invited him, he probably was excited about going to skate park at Tampa because he's a big skateboard
He's
guy.
a skateboard guy?
He's a
Really?
skateboard guy, yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, he-
Who would have thought that?
He led the initiative to build the first skateboard park at the Miccosukee Reservation.
Wow.
Oh, what a wonderful conversation
Oh,
that's
this is
going to
gonna be-
be
this is
next
gonna be a
week.
great
It's
event.
going to be really,
Yeah.
really good. Joey, as we bid adieu to our dear friend Tom Scherberger, and thanks, Tom, for coming in today.
Thanks so much for having me.
And
It was
sharing
fun
your-
going down memory lane with you guys.
Yeah,
We
absolutely,
do that.
Tom.
We do that from week to week.
Thank you so much for sharing your life and what you're doing with this event, by the way.
And
Thank
still
you.
being very productive with that life.
Thanks for
all the
being
best.
thanks for being a good source on Ybor City for years there, Joe.
all the best to Janet as well.
Coming up next, well, first of all, as always, thank you, Jessica G., the OG of our board. And also, coming up next, it's It's the Music Wednesday with Sam. Sam, there she is.
Sam, I am. Thank you, Sam. Listen, thanks, everybody. We'll be here again next week. Don't forget about us, the conversation. You're listening to WMNF 88.5 here in Tampa.